try to blow my mind. I don't care.
All right, peace, Black family. Thank you for joining me yet again on another episode of After the Revolution, where we cover all things revolving around Haiti, from historical Haitian figures to historical Haitian events. So today I will be highlighting migration patterns and specifically two individuals that I want to highlight in connection to those migration patterns. Now, being the fact that there's going to be a lot of information that I'm going to be outputting on this video, I do have my trusty notepad, so I won't sit back and upload the video on YouTube and then watch the video and be like, God
Damn it, I knew I forgot to put something in the video.
So you may see me reading off my notepad just because I want to hit every point specifically, and I don't want to actually miss out on any points. Now, for copyright reasons, some of the information and the videos are from other channels, so I do want to claim the Freedom of Information Act and Fair Usage Act, okay? So I won't get a YouTube strike. With that being said, first and foremost, I want to highlight one of the first people that I'm going to be talking about, Ammonia Lewis, who was born in 1844 to a mixed-race mother of Mississippian culture and African-American heritage. Now, for those who may not know, there was a group of people called the Mississippians who were like Native Americans / Black people. And then Ammonia Lewis also had a Haitian father, okay? And she was born in 1844. And she was a famous female sculptor of her time who later transcended in 1907, okay? Ammonia Lewis. Second person that I want to highlight is JeanBaptiste Point du Sable. Try saying that fast 5 times. And he was born in Saint Marc, Haiti in 1745, and he transcended in 1818. Now, JeanBaptiste Point du Sable is considered to be the founder of Chicago. A lot of people may not know that. He spoke many different languages, and he was from Haiti because most Haitians living in the mountains, being maroons, came in contact with a lot of indigenous people, and they learned the language. So when they came to mainland United States, they already spoke some native languages. This is important because it shows on many occasions, if you've been on this channel for a previous time, if it's your first time watching this channel, you will see that I've always showed the connection how Africans, Haitian Africans in Haiti have found their way here to mainland United States. All right. This is very important to understand. I wanted to highlight those two people because they were significant people in what is considered to be African American history, but they are actually Haitian. They actually came from Haiti. The reason why I'm making this video, let me kind of highlight that for a second, is because a lot of times we get caught up on national history and we don't understand that there's really no such thing as national history. There's a Black shared Atlantic experience where you have Africans migrating from the Caribbean to the United States, and then from the United States to the Caribbean. So you have this Black Atlantic experience.
The German Coast Uprising revealed the Haitian Revolution's impact not only on the demographics of Louisiana, which up to that point had been importing enslaved workers from Haiti, there were also many Haitians who emigrated to the U.S. in the years following the Revolution. According to historian Manisha Sinha, the most direct consequence of the Haitian Revolution in the United States was the influx of refugees into cities like New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Charleston, and New Orleans. In other words, New Orleans and much of southern Louisiana had long-standing connections with Haiti. This tells us a lot about the climate at the time of the German Coast Uprising. A significant amount of the enslaved population had arrived soon after witnessing a slave uprising that led to the abolition of slavery and the establishment of a free country. So as I'm sure you can imagine, a number of the refugees that came to the United States were very much bringing the spirit of the Haitian Revolution alongside them.
So what do we know historically, right? We know that 48% of slave or enslaved people went to the Caribbean, okay? 41% of enslaved Africans went to Brazil, and only 5% of enslaved Africans went to the United States. Now, a lot of people would say, well, you know, the population of enslaved Africans in the United States didn't compare to the Caribbean, and so what they did is they changed, you know, our identity, and this is how, you know, the population went from being 5% of enslaved Africans to whatever percentage it was after slavery, because they reclassified us. We are truly the real Native Americans. This is what Negroes would say, but they don't understand migration patterns, and they don't understand how at certain time periods Africans in the Caribbean migrated to the United States, and then Africans in the United States migrated to the Caribbean.
When the British were fighting the United States, there were African slaves or former slaves assisting the British in fighting the U.S. When the U.S. won and the Britons lost, many of the African Americans were sent to British colonies in West Africa, and many of the African Americans were sent into Nova Scotia, Canada.
Many of the African Americans were sent to British colonies in West Africa, and many of the African Americans were sent into Nova Scotia, Canada.
Which means that you had African Americans who are connected to the transatlantic slave trade, who are connected to United States slavery, right? Who migrated out of the United States and went into the Caribbean, went into places like Nova Scotia, Canada, went to Australia, went to Africa. Places that they settled in was Freetown in Africa, right? Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, Liberia, and Canada. These enslaved people who fought in the American Revolution were all dropped off in these different places, okay? Which means that you have African American descendants who live in the Caribbean to this day. We also know that the slave population in Louisiana was primarily dominated by Haitian imports. A lot of the people who came from Louisiana, this is why you see Louisiana has that real deep Haitian culture. You look at the homes, they have shotgun homes. That comes directly out of that. They have the Mardi Gras celebration, which comes out of Haiti. They have voodoo down there in Louisiana. Now, when I talk about Louisiana, I'm just not talking about the state. I'm talking about what it was previously before the Louisiana Purchase, which was the state of Louisiana all the way up to about Canada was purchased by the United States. Now, that was purchased inadvertently because of the Haitian Revolution, caused Napoleon to have to sell that property to Thomas Jefferson. But the point that I'm making is, prior to that selling, that France sold that part of the United States to the United States, most of the slaves, the imports, came directly out of Haiti, okay? This is a fact. So when we're talking about lineage, when we're talking about being African American or foundational Black American, and we talking about certain parts of the United States, those populations of people came directly out of the Caribbean. So the purpose of me even making this video is to say that you actually don't know your lineage. You actually don't know your history until you go into that history to understand your lineage. I'm sure a lot of people are secure in the fact that I am a foundational Black American. My parents been here since slavery. My parents been here since this time. And I'm sure there are a lot of people in Haiti and in the Caribbean who say, me a Jamaican, me I been in Jamaica for 500 years, and but you really don't know. You really don't know, because humans in any type of history, whether it be Arab history, European history, Indian history, have never stayed still. People have always migrated, and your ancestors may have been people who migrated from the United States to Haiti, or the opposite. They may have been people who migrated from Haiti to the United States, or from the United States to Jamaica, or to Jamaica to Canada. So just because you are there now in that particular place does not mean that that is where your ancestry are from. That is not where your ancestry is from. And this is what Garvey understood, and this is what other Pan-African leaders understood before him and after him, that we are connected. One race, one people, one destiny, one aim. And I said that wrong, but y'all know what I mean. Until next time, think Black, stay Black, love Black, support Black, and that's real African Black power.
build awareness among our American people, and at a national level share information. Yes, we have been here for 201 years now. Last year we celebrated our 200th anniversary. The Americans came here in 1816, and why only just recently a lot of people become aware of American history.
The first batch of soldiers that came settled in First Company, known as Grant. The fifth batch of soldiers settled around the Indian Walk Road going to Moruga. So that's the 5th Company area there. And the 6th Company is the last batch of soldiers that came and settled in the 6th Company that borders or connects with 1st Company, 2nd Company, 3rd Company, and 5th Company. So the African Americans settled in the company villages and called themselves Americans.
The Atlantic slave trade had a significant impact on Sierra Leone, as this trade flourished in the 17th and 18th centuries, and later as a center of anti-slavery efforts when the trade was abolished in 1807. British abolitionists had organized a colony for black loyalists at Freetown, and this became the capital of British West Africa. A naval squadron was based there to intercept slave ships, and the colony quickly grew as liberated Africans were released, joined by West Indian and African soldiers who had fought for Britain in the Napoleonic Wars. The descendants of the black settlers were collectively referred to as the Creoles or Creos.
In the year 1824, when Haiti was 20 years old as a nation, its then president Jean-Pierre Boyer sent out a special invitation to African Americans in the United States who were under slavery and living in segregation in that country. The Haitian president's message to the African Americans? Come live in Haiti. Boyer was definitely not the first person to have this move to Haiti idea. The historian Leon Pamphile writes in the days following independence from France, Haiti's leader, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, had appealed to black Americans and anyone under the whip of slavery to come to Haiti. Several historical sources note that Dessalines went as far as paying slave ship captains to bring Africans intended for slavery in the United States to Haiti as freed men. Haiti King Henry Christophe had laws in his royal code offering anyone directly from Africa or of African descent instant Haitian citizenship upon arrival to Haiti.
One thing that makes Liberia stand out from the rest of Africa was that the nation, at least in modern times, was resettled by freed slaves that were initially brought from the US and Caribbean in the mid-1800s by the American Colonization Society. Okay, get ready because I'm about to go into story mode. Basically, if you were a freed slave in the US in the mid-1800s, you had two choices: stay as a disenfranchised individual and hope that over time society would get better for you, or you could take your chances and sail to Africa and create your own society run by you and other freed slaves funded by the US government. In 1822, the first ship set sail, and over 4 decades, over 13,000 freed slaves were returned back to Africa, and an entirely new people group, the Americo-Liberians, were formed.